Hello, RJ here. Today is December 6th, and this is the News and Review. In this video, I'm going to go through the news articles that I shared on the People Have Spoken Facebook page and give my thoughts and commentary and try and give a bit more context to what's going on. Now, if you're watching this on Facebook, please also be aware that I am posting these now into the YouTube page as well as to the Rumble page. So if you prefer to those platforms, prefer to share in those places, you can do that as well. And if you are watching me on either of those two platforms, just know that most of my content I'm posting right now is going on to Facebook. But any video content I am trying to get up on all these other places as well. I just do a lot of extra posting I put on the Facebook page. Also, you may have noticed that I now have a few t-shirts designs that I put on there. Right now, just one. Do have some others coming down the road. So if you like those designs, then please consider purchasing one of those shirts. It does help me and allows me to continue the work I'm doing. With no further adu, let's jump into the first story. I didn't have any video come out on Friday, so I wasn't able to go over any of those articles. And so I want to talk about one article in particular. And that, I'll read the headline here. Wagner High School principal, wife resigned from positions after accusations of racist comments. And the text I have here, a Facebook post by, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, so I'm not going to butcher it, on July 25th, 2021, alleges that, she was at the Fort Randall County Club in Pikestown with a group of Native women. She overheard Neil, which is the principal, say, "My face is so red that I must be Native American," to a group of his friends. Now, I read through the story and looked at some of the background articles that were also about the story. I read through the lady who posted this, her entire article. And one of the things I noticed was in her Facebook post, it's this big long rant. She mentions that there's 30 other people who have anonymously commented about the principal's racist past and racist history and racist comments he made. Apparently, they can't report it to her, not to anybody else, and so maybe I misunderstood that, but that's how I understand it. From what I can tell, also, the principal, Neil, he's never come out and said that he made these comments, and I find this very... So from what I'm seeing from this, and maybe I'm missing something, and if anybody knows any more about this, I always love getting more. I hate being wrong, so please just let me know if you do find stuff out. But what I'm seeing from this story is that we have a woman who recognizes this guy, or allegedly recognizes this guy at the country club, and she puts out a Facebook post saying that he'd said these horrible things, and that's resulting in him now losing his job. Not only him losing his job, but his wife, who's a teacher at the school, also losing a job. There doesn't seem to be any corroborating reports that he said this. There doesn't seem to be any reports that he said any of the racist comments before, apart from some anonymous posts that were out there. And this seems to be a very big case of just cancer culture coming into South Dakota. The comment that he said here, and this is, again, the quote from the article, "My face is so red that I must be Native American." First of all, in my opinion, that doesn't even seem like that outlandish of a thing to say. Like, it doesn't, not saying that it's something I would say, just, it's not a, it doesn't seem like this horrible racist comment that deserves someone losing their job. Maybe he apologized for it if he said those things, but even beyond that point, this doesn't even seem like something that I have a hard time imagining someone actually saying that. Like, just the way it's phrased seems like a strange way to make a comment like that. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around. And so I don't know what to make of this story apart from, again, it seems like cancel culture coming to South Dakota. Personally, I don't think that this situation happened. And I'm not saying it could not have happened, and I'm not saying it didn't definitively. I just don't think it did. And until I'm able to get more proof, I'm no longer giving people who are looking to cancel people and especially and making comments about racism, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt anymore. I've done that in the past, and so many times it shows that that was wrong. So short of any other actual evidence of this, I'm not happy that he lost his job. And we got to be watching out for stuff like this and not bending the knee to cancel culture. Because, again, I've even had experience with this before. I think I mentioned this on a previous video, that I was working at a place, posted something on Facebook publicly, and I started getting people to, or at least one person, I don't know how many people called, but at least one person contacting my employer about the things I was saying on Facebook, which had nothing to do with my job, had no impact on it. And in this case, fortunately, my employers were pretty good, and they didn't decide to fire me for that. But it was still something that really was eye-opening, that this is such a big issue even here in South Dakota. South Dakota's public universities were ordered to drop diversity for opportunity centers. And since the school year's beginning, 4 employees in diversity efforts at South Dakota State University have left their jobs. At the University of South Dakota, a new director of the Opportunity Center has yet to be hired. Meanwhile, other campuses are unsure of what's in store for diversity inclusion efforts beginning January 1st. And this is something I'm very happy about. I'm very happy that they made this decision to not use Diversity Center, but call it an Opportunity Center. I'm very happy with the fact that these diversity executives are quitting. I don't think they belong in the schools, and so I'm very happy about that. And there's a lot of surprising things about this article. Like, there's people claiming that this is whitewashing the universities by trying to call it an Opportunity Center instead of Diversity Center. And again, this is another area where this is part of the whole ideas of critical race theory. And this is something that I get really frustrated by when there's this big push for diversity, and when they start saying that not having this diversity inherently means that it's whitewashing, and it puts everything in the lens of race, and that is what critical race theory is trying to do. And so I'm very happy that they're doing this. I would love to just get rid of all of these diversity centers. Let's just focus on people and not the color of our skin. That is what I was raised to be. And apparently that now makes me a racist. And don't like dealing with that anymore. But anyway, I'm not going to go and press that issue too much more, so I'll just keep going. The next article I have here, Thune once again raises idea of retirement. Twice this year, Senator Thune has raised the idea of leaving the Senate. At 60, he has spent nearly half his life in Congress, with 6 years in the House of Representatives from 1997 to 2003, and now 17 years in the Senate. So I always default to this idea of get rid of the incumbent, replace him with somebody else. And I have no fondness of Thune. I don't think he's doing a very good job representing South Dakota, and I don't think he's doing a job being in the legislature. And so I have no problem getting rid of him, and I think this is only good. I hope he does retire. That would make things a lot easier. But otherwise, I hope someone good can come along and take his seat and actually put South Dakotans first instead of special interest groups and all these other things that are going on there. Next story here. The headline here: women would sign up for the military draft under defense bill in Congress. As the Senate works to finalize a major annual defense measure, there is a bipartisan push to include requirement that all young Americans, including women, for the first time register for the military draft. Current law refers to registration of male persons, and both documented and undocumented immigrants are included. So the reason why I shared this article, this doesn't actually specifically relate to South Dakota, but it's definitely something that will affect South Dakotans. And I'm, first of all, not in favor of the draft. Actually, my preference here, if we're going to have a military, I think there's a lot of benefits, obviously, to a military. But having a military, I think the best solution is having required service in the military. But that is a completely different situation. What I want to go and talk about here is actually why this is becoming an issue. So right now, there's a Defense Authorization Act. So this is a big, massive bill. It's just under $800 billion that they're trying to pass to go and fund the military. And part of the thing that they're going to be putting into this bill is this idea, or trying to, I should say, that they're trying to put into this bill, is this whole idea that women have to register for the draft. So if you're a woman between the ages of 18 and 25, you'd have to register for the draft. And if they ever called the draft again, then you'd have to go and fight in the army. Now, one of the reasons why I'm sharing this is because I think there's bigger implications here. And to put this in some more context, right now we are facing a lot of friction with China. There's another article, I didn't share it on the page. I only read the headline, so I don't know exact details about it. But basically, it's saying that there's going to be some boycotts about the Beijing Winter Olympics. So that's that. I don't want to go into that, but we're having this friction with China. There's the whole situation with the coronavirus coming from China and all the drama, I'll just put it simply, that came out of the result of that. We have a lot of the issues with our trade imbalances from China. And then we also have this idea that China right now is trying to go and take Taiwan. Now, they already think they have Taiwan, but they are considering that they're implying that they want to go and actually do a land invasion of Taiwan. Now, that's a really big deal because there are only 3 places in the world where microchips are made. And those places are Taiwan. I forget the name of the manufacturer there, but it's one manufacturer in Taiwan. There's Samsung in Korea, and then there's Intel. Now, Intel used to be the biggest in the United States. They used to be the biggest in the world. They no longer are the biggest. They're now the smallest, and they're falling behind. Samsung is fairly big, but they tend to be more specialized. And so the majority of the chips that end up in the cars, into cell phones, into your microwaves, pretty much every single thing that you have are coming from these foundries in Taiwan that are making these silicon chips. And this is a very big risk factor for America. If Taiwan goes in and tries to retake Taiwan and cuts off America's access to these microchips, this would be absolutely devastating for the U.S. economy. Now, America has a partnership with Taiwan, or I shouldn't say a partnership. We have they're one of our allies. And so if they get attacked by China, then we would have a responsibility, and it would also be in our best interest to go and try and defend Taiwan because we don't want to lose access to these microchips. However, based off the situation with the way we have descaled our military and the situation our Navy is in, and plus the leadership that we currently have between General Mike Milley and also, of course, our Commander-in-Chief, I don't think that we will succeed. I have looked at the numbers for how big our military is, especially in comparison to China and other countries, and I am questioning that I don't think it's fair to say that we have the biggest superpower in the world. Now, we do have the advantage that we have bases everywhere, and so we're able to get around more, and people have this respect for America because we have been this massive superpower. But we've been really cutting back on the military. Our troops are not trained well. There was this whole situation where we did this training exercise with some it was American, I believe it's American Marines. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's American Marines. They went up against the British Marines and did this basically mock battle training exercise. And the British Marines destroyed, absolutely, like there's no competition. They trounced the Americans. It was an embarrassment to the American military. And so my concern here is that we still have war hawks in Congress. We still have a lot of people who want to go and get the gears of war turning again and start putting more energy back into the military-industrial complex. And my concern here is that having such bipartisan support, as well as the president saying that he's in favor of this, that this is an indication that the federal government is gearing up for war. Now, I know everything I said before about losing access to the Taiwan, but going to war is not a good option either. And this is why I've mentioned previously that I do think that the best option at this point in time, the way that we can avoid the most amount of pain and have the most amount of or I should say the least amount of human suffering, is by breaking up the country. Because if we break up the country, we're no longer this threat that we have with China. Yes, we're going to have to start, it's going to be a crazy time. But this has happened before with the Soviet Union, it's happened before with Yugoslavia, and the countries that have come out of both of those are more prosperous, and the people are better off in those situations now than they were when they were these big, massive countries. And if you look at a lot of the very prosperous countries, places like Luxembourg and Switzerland and Sweden and Norway and all, the list goes on and on and on. When we have these small, culturally homogenous countries, these are the ones that are able to provide the best life for the people who live there. They're able to have a lot of money, a lot of resources. People are able to live there happily. And I don't know exactly what this will look like, but this is part of the reason why we need to do this. And this is why it's very serious that we consider what the future is going to look like. Again, we need to be making sure that South Dakota is coming first, and that in all things. And we need to make sure that we're getting institutions and getting things ready for whatever may come. Because whether or not the federal government goes away, the more we can make South Dakota a resilient place to live, the better off it's going to be no matter what the future holds. And so this is why I think this story is so important. I find it very foreboding of what our federal government might be looking to do. And there's a lot of other things that go on. I really can't go into all these details, but this is why it's so important to pay attention to the big picture and what all is happening and what our politicians are doing, because I don't think they have our best interests at heart, and I don't think many people watching this video will disagree with that. And we need to make sure that since they're not looking out for us, that we're looking out for ourselves, and that we're making a state that we want to live in. But yeah, I think I said enough about that topic, so let's go to the last article that we have here. So the last article, the U.S. biofuel mandate helps farmers but harms the environment. Now, this is an opinion piece. I'm going to set that off from the beginning, but I'll read this quoted text I took from the article. So the RFS displaces a modest amount of petroleum, shifting some income away from the oil industry and into agribusiness. Nevertheless, biofuels' contribution to U.S. energy security pales compared with gains from expanded domestic oil production through hydraulic fracturing, which of course brings its own severe environmental damages, and using ethanol in fuel poses other risks, including damage to small engines and higher emissions from fuel fumes. For consumers, biofuel use has had a varying but overall small effect on pump prices. Renewable fuel policy has little leverage in the world oil market, where biofuel mandates penny-level effects and no match for oil's dollar scale volatility. So the idea behind this opinion piece is that the biofuel industry, so having ethanol and all the ethanol that's going on, is only benefiting the crop, the producers of the corn, as well as the people who, of course, are making a biofuel. That it's not really having any benefit to the actual consumer at the pumps. It's not having any benefit in actual CO2 emissions, and it's really just a big scheme to, again, get more money into farmers. And that since one of the big corn producers where we get these biofuels is in Iowa, and Iowa's a very significant state when it comes to the elections because they're the first place for primaries. There's this Iowa straw poll. I should say the Iowa caucus, not the Iowa primary. Then there's the Iowa straw poll. Not in that order, of course. But anyway, because of that, it makes it very beneficial and advantageous for politicians to be talking positively about biofuels because they don't want to upset the Iowan voters. And this is something that I completely agree with. I look at the whole situation of biofuels as nothing more than just more corporate handouts, more corporate welfare, and just handouts to these business owners. I don't think it's good in any sector. I don't think it should happen to electric cars, and I don't think it should happen to biofuels and the people who are producing the biofuels. We just shouldn't be giving money to these private businesses. If you want to have a business and grow the corn. And one of the things that really frustrates me and startles me is I drive around South Dakota and I look at all these cornfields, and I know that the majority of the corn here isn't even able to go and feed people. Yeah, you can't eat it. And you always get this kind of two-sided thing where you have the farmers there trying to go and say, oh, yes, we're farmers, so you got to rely on us because we're feeding America. But most of these corn and most of these crops are being made to go and actually feed livestock and go and feed your car engine and not actually feeding America. And I find it so disingenuous. And personally, I have both an electric car and I have a gas car, and there are benefits to both. I really enjoy driving the electric car, but of course, I don't want to mandate people to drive the electric car. And there's times where driving the gas car makes way more sense. They're just two different ways of getting around. One is not inherently better than the other. And it's something that we need to be more open-minded about. But trying to go and mandate this and just keep throwing money at the farmers and to go and make more of this ethanol. Again, I don't care about the carbon emission aspects of it. I think if we want to address any issues of climate change or problems with the climate, we need to be focusing on the livability aspect of it. We need to be focusing on the person aspect of it. Again, I have an electric car. When I bought the electric car, it was never consideration about the environmental impact it has. My only consideration it has was, is this something that I'm going to enjoy and it's going to make my life better? And it definitely has. And I think it will for a lot of more people. But I'm not going to force people to do that. I think people can make that own decision. And if it works for them, then great. But again, it's all about personal freedom, individual choice. And if we're mandating these things and we're giving these subsidies to these farmers, then it's taking that away. And again, I strongly suspect that the federal government will be collapsing here within the next couple of years. I hope that it does, because again, I think it's going to be causing a lot less suffering the sooner that it happens. And when it happens, these corn subsidies are going to go away, and it's going to be a very different economy that we're going to have to be contending with. And I just hope that the farmers are going to be able to be prepared for that. And I hope that everybody watching this, whether you're a farmer or not, is going to be prepared for that. So that's all that I have for today, though. Again, if you like this kind of content, please share it. Again, follow me on Rumble and YouTube, or if you're already on those platforms, then follow me on Facebook, where I'll continue to be posting things. And again, go ahead onto Facebook. You can see my merchandise store, where again I have just a few items right now, but I'll be adding some more later on. So depending on when you're watching this, maybe I already have some more items than I did when I made this. But that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching.